Hey there, y'all. Welcome back. It's Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's going on, Mark?
What's up, Trey? How you doing?
I'm all right.
Did you watch any basketball last night?
No, I tend to wait until it gets closer to playoff time and stuff to get into the basketball thing, but I think I might know what you're about to bring up, but go ahead.
This isn't about basketball for anybody who's worried about not being a sports fan. But last night the Lakers played the Hawks, and LeBron got into it with this guy on the front row, which happens. The Atlanta is allowing people at games, I think 8% capacity. Anyway, so he got in trash talking with this dude, and then his wife jumps in, standing up for him. This is like a 60-year-old guy with a 25-year-old wife, so that's always going to go well. So she made a big stink, got him kicked out. They made a series of Instagram posts that drew more attention to it, and then somebody broke down the audio. It turned out what LeBron had called this dude was an old steroid ass. All right,
Yeah.
pretty good burn, LeBron. But I just amazed at a person defending her husband turned him into an international mockery because old steroid ass was trending worldwide on multiple social media platforms. And as someone whose wife would totally do that,
Right.
I empathize with this guy. Well, this woman's different because she was like auditioning for a Real Housewives of Atlanta sort of role.
Yeah.
My wife would do it, and the guys have actually trying to defend me. But it's kind of why you don't marry someone that young when you're 60. Is they're financially going to be better off when you're dead.
Yeah, that guy was sitting there looking at us like, please stop heckling the greatest basketball player in the world on my behalf right now. Like, I would prefer that you not be this.
Yeah,
But yeah, like you said, that's what you get.
yeah.
All right. Let's do the show. With us, as always, producer Matt doing his thing. This is Evening Skews. Got a good show for you tonight. We're going to talk about the first couple weeks of Joe Biden's presidency, which so far have been marked by his very novel approach to governing in this country. He likes to employ the very rare, very controversial political strategy of doing stuff. As any American knows, our politician is not historically known for doing a lot of stuff, but Joe Biden so far is a donkey of a different color, and not everyone is happy about that. We'll talk about that later. We'll also talk about what Congress is up to, get into an update on the Wall Street versus the nerds situation, and more on tonight's Evening Skews. But first, as always, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's dumbass is any red-blooded, God-fearing American conservative who had put their faith in Newsmax. I'm sorry to tell you, if you thought that they would take the place of Fox News as the official go-to source for shitty white people information nationwide, you might be disappointed. Just look at how they treated noted pillow patriot Mike Lindell during his recent appearance on the network. Matt, play the clip, please.
What happened? What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then when I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know.
This is when the buzzer under his chair from the lawyers went off.
We've seen, and let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of
I can't believe having Mike Lindell on has devolved into this unfortunate situation for them.
And Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk.
I'm sure he'll move on.
Canceling culture, if you will.
No,
we don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary? Because it appears to be permanent. Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
it's real.
can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to.
I don't want to lose my house.
Actually,
He takes it into his own hands right here in just a second. This Newsmax anchor does.
Yeah. Everybody, hold on a second. Mike, hold on one
Look at him.
second.
Watch it.
Let's
Fuck
talk
this.
a little bit about just what
just
is
leaves.
happening
5 o'clock somewhere.
overall in terms of censorship.
Cancel out my company and myself in this country. It's cancel culture. They're
So he only got into it just there at the very end. It seems to me like where they wanted him to talk about cancel culture and go into how liberals are all snowflakes and they cancel everybody that they disagree. That's what they wanted him to talk about. But he was on this other shit about the election being stolen. He's still on that gear. And what's funny is they basically end up also canceling him like in their own way.
Yeah.
You know,
they had him on to talk about censorship of people's political. You can only say the right thing. You only talk about the things people want you to talk about, and then they're trying to make him only talk about the thing they want to talk about.
Right. Yeah. And they just say fuck it and walk off when he won't talk about the thing they want to talk about. Like, we wanted to talk about how you're not allowed to talk about the things you want to talk about, but you're not talking about the thing we wanted to talk about. So what the fuck, Mike? Like, that's how things are going at Newsmax currently.
It's double ironic because the reason his Twitter account got taken down was for posting about the stuff he's trying to talk about, but they only want to talk about the ban. They don't want to talk about the information that got him banned because they will get in trouble for spreading that information too, because Dominion's fought a couple of $1.3 billion lawsuits against a slew of people. Now, I would not want to be in court defending myself for a $1.3 billion lawsuit, especially one I was potentially going to lose. But there's an added level of hilarity here is like, he was talking about revealing all this information on Friday. There's apparently been some other fake goalpost moving deadline cooked up in the Q forums that the election could still be overturned in 3 days on this Friday. I don't understand the logic, but that's what he was trying to talk about. So there's a lot of reasons they didn't want to let him talk.
Yeah. All right, so we got some honorable mentions for you for Daily Dumbass tonight. This next one's a little weird because I don't want to call this lady a dumbass necessarily. Yeah. To me, wonderful. It's more like the universe is a dumbass, I guess, because
she's a stand-in for all of us who are the same amount of dumbass who are just going through our lives, having a little bit of fun while chaos is happening all around us.
Right. If you know what we're talking about, a woman in Myanmar, I'm sure I butchered that name, I'm sorry. A woman in Myanmar, she just wanted to do her dancing aerobics for the internet like we all want to do, like me and Mark are doing right now. We're doing our own version of that. Little did she know that what played out behind her would result in her clip becoming the quintessential era we live in internet clip for the rest of time. Matt, please play it when you can. That is a military junta pulling up behind her to perform a coup d'etat at her country's parliament. Nero ain't got shit on this lady.
I love her so much, man. It's perfect.
Dude, me too. She's got moves too, man. Like, that's what makes it like better. Is it's like she's giving it everything she's got, and I mean, honestly, she's hitting, she's doing it, and completely oblivious to her world burning down behind her. It's just, that's all of us in 2021. All right, you can cut it off, man. It keeps going like that. It stays amazing. It doesn't stop being amazing. But yeah, you guys get the idea. But I mean, I think that has real meme potential there, Mark. Like, I think that one's going to stand the test of time on the internet. It's going to keep coming up over and over again, I believe, and I'm for it.
It's like the reverse. Remember Baghdad Bob from the Iraq War? The guy who kept saying that nothing's wrong, everything's okay, while like the tanks rolled into Baghdad behind him. Like, he was talking about how Iraq was winning the war while U.S. tanks were driving it. This is like the opposite of that somehow, where she knows shit sucks and she's just trying to live her life. the only news takeaway that affects us here, I mean, obviously, other than our shared humanity with these people who are about to live under a military dictatorship, is going to speed up the genocide of the Rohingya people. QAnon has adopted the Myanmar coup as like a good thing they're rooting for. And they're actually proposing that maybe Q was talking about Myanmar the whole time, and Myanmar is the center of the pedophile cabal, and the military is overthrowing that. So that's the connection to our world, and which continues to be nuts, as we're about to show you.
Yes, right. So, yeah, on that note, going to the next honorable mention, yeah, QAnon, weirdly, if you guys haven't picked up on it so far, they have some kind of odd beliefs, and apparently you can both believe in them and then later on realize that they were weird, which is an odd dynamic in my opinion. Matt, just play the clip of Anderson Cooper. Y'all see what I'm talking about. This QAnon guy.
At the time, believe that high-level Democrats and celebrities were worshiping Satan, drinking the blood of children?
Anderson, I thought you did that. And I would like to apologize for that right now. So I apologize for thinking that you ate babies. But yeah, 100%.
You actually believe that I was drinking the blood of children?
Yes, I did.
Was it something about me that made you think that?
It's because Q specifically mentioned you, and he mentioned you very early on. He mentioned you by name, and from there, if he also talked about, like, for example, like your family. But yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, like, people still talk about that to this day. There were posts about that just 4 days ago. So something
not out of the woods yet, Anderson.
You really believed that?
Yeah.
I didn't just believe that. I at one stage believed that QAnon was part of military intelligence, which is what he says. But on top of that, that the people behind them were actually a group of fifth-dimensional, intradimensional, extraterrestrial, bipedal bird aliens called blue avians.
Yeah, you could say, Mark, how somebody would believe that, right? Like
far down in this conspiracy black hole.
I mean,
I was essentially picking and choosing whatever narrative that I wanted to believe in.
Okay, yeah. So Mark, I want you to please try to explain this dude to me, because this is a thing that comes up a lot. Like we had our guest on last week talking about QAnon, and I was saying, like, it's so hard for me to understand a person and their brain who can now sit there and talk rationally about, like, listen, man, I was into some crazy shit. Literal fucking blue bird, alien, baby-eating robot stuff. Like, I don't know how you can be that now and have been the other thing before. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy to me that a seemingly pretty regular, rational dude, based on this interview, also was that dude who fully endorsed that type of shit. Like, how does that work, man? I don't get it.
We've all been pretty bored the past year. I don't know. But I mean, like, if you're going to believe in that powerful, there's a network of powerful people that are eating babies. I mean, Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt. He's the face of CNN, right? He's like there's no way he could not be in it. So
yeah, for sure, I get that part, but it's like, I don't know how cogent this dude is when he's sitting here now, present day, talking about, yeah, man, I'm sorry, but I believed you were a baby eating blue robot alien.
Look, one of the reasons
vampire.
I started talking about this stuff on the show last year is because, like, I wanted to tell people, when you see people posting on your Facebook, the people you know and love, you went to high school with, this is the shit they're talking about. And this, like, there are normal people, except for this one weird thing where they want to watch the execution of high-level Democrats on TV without a trial. Except for that, they hold jobs, they go to PTA meetings, they're on your school boards. There was a story this week that the mayor of some town in Washington State is a big QAnon guy, and he's like using his weekly radio address to talk about Q. And they interviewed, I think it was CNN interviewed people from the town, like, yeah, he otherwise does a great job. He just talks about baby eating on the town YouTube.
yeah, it's just the one thing. He just gets a little off track every now and then, but generally speaking, he's a good dude.
Makes the trains run on time.
Right. Okay. All right. Moving on. The next honorable mention. All the people, maybe not all of them, but generally speaking, all of the people who participated in the Capitol riots earlier in this year, seems to me, Mark, that they maybe still don't really grasp what they did. And I say that because of this lady. Matt, put up the screen grab if you've got it. Yes, one of the Capitol rioters has formally asked the court she's in to allow her to vacation in Mexico because she doesn't see Mark, she doesn't really see any real reason why, doing a little treason or whatever should keep her from going to PV or Cancun or wherever she was going.
She's like again, talking about these people aren't like they aren't like crazy tinfoil hat wearing weirdos. Like, she's the president of her company. She booked this like bonding retreat, probably a good boss, just going by those scant details. But she just thinks she should still be able to go on her Mexican vacation, which if she's this stupid, if she really thinks she's in this little legal trouble, she's probably not a flight risk. So maybe the judge should let her go. But I don't understand these people's brains at all, man. It's like, maybe they're right. A lot of them are getting bailed. It's really funny. We texted about it earlier, but like the one black guy they arrested for invading the Capitol is the one guy did not get bail. Fucking weird. How weird that is.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So the next honorable mention here, some people that seem to, or as far as what they say, were well-meaning neighbors of ours, Mark, here in Southern California, who they claim were just trying to raise awareness for breast cancer. Matt, we put up the screen grab of how they went about that. Yes, they changed the Hollywood sign to say Holly Boob, which turns out generally frowned upon by the Los Angeles authorities, and they have now been arrested. But they climbed up to the Hollywood sign and changed the W and the D to B's, so it says Holly Boob. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about their approach.
First of all, big fan.
Yeah.
The second problem, this isn't even like the original idea, but I think it was about a year or two ago, somebody climbed up there and changed it to say Holly Weed, and that was a big mystery. I don't think they got caught.
See, to me, Holly Boob is a little bit more of a reach than Holly Weed. I have to say, because that's during the whole legal weed yes or no type of situation. If you change the Hollywood sign to say Holly Weed, I feel like everybody who sees that gets it. I think they get what happened there. They get what you're doing.
Yeah.
But changing it to Holly Boob, I think most people are going to see it and be like, oh, these teenagers again doing their teenager stuff. They made a titty joke. You know how they are with titty jokes. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to, your average person's not going to put it together, I don't think, what you're going for with that.
If you waited to do it during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, you probably get the key to the city. For those of y'all that don't know, I think the original sign was Hollywoodland. That was what this area was called. To start with, Hollywoodland, land burned down, so they just changed the name of the city rather than build the sign back. That's probably because of all the weed. But anyway, it's much easier to say anyway. So,
all right, last one. If you want to do it, Mark, you gotta set this last honorable mention up if you want to get into it. Then we'll move on.
So it turns out Lynn Wood, who's been America's lead detective on the vote fraud Dominion voting machine trail, may have dabbled a little vote fraud himself. He is apparently under investigation for vote fraud because he moved to South Carolina, but apparently may have still voted in Georgia. I
don't believe it.
The Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, who Lynn Wood has tried to have executed, apparently has Lynn Wood's balls in his grip.
Lynn Wood, more like Lynn Boob. Am I right, Mark? I'm sorry. I apologize to all of you for that. But yeah, this is what always ends up happening with these people. Like ever since, and I'm sure they were doing it way before then too. But like ever since it started, few years back with the most homophobic members of the Republican Congress getting caught in bathrooms jerking dudes off and things like that. You know what I mean? Like they got a whole thing going with I think thou doth protest too much. Like.
Yeah.
Of course, this dude's just a straight up lunatic, though. You know what I mean? Like, this motherfucker's crazy, I think. So I'm sure he did all that shit.
There's a through line here where they convince themselves of the other side's depravity and that they're just getting away with so much they do it themselves. Like that's not just the congressman fucking in airport bathrooms or whatever. It's like they think voter fraud's easy to get away with and everybody gets away with it, so they do it and they get caught because it is rare and very hard to get away with, so they're immediately in jail. It's kind of like how every Republican HUD secretary ends up in jail because they assume no one would actually believe there should be a Department of Housing or Development. No one would actually want to help poor people get houses. So obviously Democrats run it as a boondoggle to just like run scams. And then they get in there and they run scams and give contracts to their friends and they end up in jail and are surprised because they think everyone does it. It's like it's round and round as we go.
Right. All right. Let's move on from the Daily Dumbasses now. You guys may have known if you see me posted earlier, I participated in a little bit of clickbait, I guess, because I posted promoting the show tonight. The question is Joe Biden the most radically left-wing president in living memory? A lot of y'all are not happy with that question at all, but I do think that it's worth talking about. He's barely been in there, a couple of weeks, but as we said up top, he's done a lot of stuff, Mark, and generally speaking, like doing stuff seems pretty left-wing to me. Like I guess what I'm saying is I agree that sounds like a ridiculous question, but I also think that it's I could see where that mentality is coming from, I guess, because he's got to have them on their heels, man, on the other side.
It's like being the tallest guy in, Person Island or whatever.
Exactly.
It's like,
yes.
So the question is,
right.
America's an insanely right-wing country with an insanely right-wing government.
Right.
If we passed England's healthcare bill, Republicans would say we're a healthcare system. Republicans would say we're turning into communist China, and so would half of Democrats. So like, it's not like you have to do much to clear that bar. I mean,
right, exactly. That's the whole thing, right? Is that very question is more of a commentary on the state of American politics in general recently, like just that the relatively mild moves that he's made already to this point would classify as being the most radically left-wing moves in recent history to the people on the other side of it, because that's the standard that we have here.
Yeah, and it's like we're up against a bunch of like huge like systemic like and fairly intractable problems. So like if you don't govern like FDR, you're not going to even get to Obama's level of sort of medium success. So that's just Biden. The only thing I can say positive is like Biden seems to understand that. Mehdi Hassan, who's a political commentator formerly of Al Jazeera, now with Peacock, who's very good interviewer besides his political views, but he's also very progressive. He wrote a column for NBC News this week, and the headline was, it's up on the screen right now, Biden, no wait, that's the wrong one. Biden's first days in office are way better than I expected. I have no doubt that Biden will deeply disappoint me, but this day is not today. That day is not today. And that's sort of how I feel about it, because they have done big aggressive shit. He's signed close to 30 executive orders, which is way more than presidents usually do in their first 2 weeks.
Like combined, right? Like when you look at that amount of executive orders in this amount of time served in office, and you look at the past like 5 or 6 presidents, it's more than all of them combined. Like it's a lot more.
Yeah, I think the first 10 days, the score was, if only we have this screen grab. There we go.
It is,
in the first 10 days, Biden 24, Trump 6, Obama 5, Bush 2, Clinton 2, Bush 1. Now, some of that is like a sign of how modern America is governed, because Congress is so like sclerotic and fucked up. The only way for a president to govern is via executive order right now, because there's no good faith negotiating. And Republicans like it that way, because a Democratic president can sign up a bunch of executive orders to try to make government function, to just bare minimum style kind of way. Republicans get to campaign against everything because they didn't sign on to anything, also while accusing the Democratic president of being claiming dictatorial authority because he's governing that way. So it's a win-win-win for them.
Right. Yeah, I think another thing that's worth mentioning is there's a lot of he's got a lot of things that need to be addressed quickly in some fashion or another. Do you know what I mean? Like, because of the state that we're in and just the current political climate, he has more shit to do or be done than a lot of previous presidents had at this point in their presidency, like glaring needs if you're on his side of the aisle. But like you said, but the other side of this is what this means is him issuing more executive orders in the first 10 days than any other president ever has by a lot. Well, that obviously means that he's trying to be king, right? He's trying to be a dictator. Matt, if you have that, there's a clip that we have of a guy asking his press secretary about this question. If you could find it, Matt, and pull it up. I know I kind of sprung that on you.
Some of these executive orders were being used to roll back some of the immoral things that the previous administration had done. If you're calling these things immoral, is that seeking consensus and unity? And then also, does it suggest that President Biden sees himself as perhaps a benevolent dictator?
Well, Rob, I'm sure this wasn't your
benevolent
intention.
Dictator. That's
He
how
said
Joe Biden
benevolent,
fashions
Trey.
himself.
He said benevolent.
Yeah, right. He did. I mean, you're right. That's a good point. But also him saying, he addressed literally what I just said a minute ago, was that, like, basically the administration was like, well, we had to address these things because they were moral failings or whatnot. And the guy's like, just calling them that, is that really seeking unity or whatever? But, like, dude.
It is. Look, the Biden signed an executive order today that was like created a commission to try to reunite the 500 or whatever kids that got stolen from their families at the border.
Right.
And nobody knows nobody knows how to put them back together or where they went. And like, that's a moral failure. Like, even if you think it was correct to separate families, which I fucking don't, I think most people don't, you should have written down where they went in case we changed our minds later, or they decided to go back to Bolivia and want their kid back. It's like, this isn't like, even at the time, Republicans were up in arms about how immoral this was. Ivanka Trump was leaking shit about how she was against it. Like, this isn't disunity. This is offering an opportunity for Republicans to be like, yeah, that is a good idea. Let's put these families back together.
Yeah, that's how they should look at it. I don't know that I believe that they will, but yeah, that's sort of how I've always felt about that whole dynamic in the first place, like growing up in rural Tennessee and whatnot, or saying, like, and trying to, reach across the aisle or how to talk to these people or whatever. And there's just, in my opinion, certain subjects that I'm sorry, it's not about, your personal opinions on a particular thing. Mm-hmm. Like, with certain things, racism, homophobia, kids being taken from their parents, things like that, there's just a right and a wrong as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not like, and if you have to offend those people in order to do the right thing, then that's just what you got to fucking do. You can't worry about trying to placate them when it comes to these, moral issues like that will be judged by history looking back on us. Just, you got to be on the right side of it. Fuck whatever they say.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. And like, go along those lines, like some of the stuff the other executive orders do, where you just shouldn't really care about other people's opinions and their bad faith complaints about your process. Trump had repealed all of his drain the swamp ethics rules on the way out the door because of fucking course he wanted his people to be able to take their payoffs. But he signed the strongest ethics rules in American history, which is, I think, who's going to come out against ethics, Trey? I'm sure we're going to find somebody.
Right.
One of my favorites, he banned federal contracts with private prisons, which me and you, because we're just us, have talked about how much private prisons at bars before, because we're fun to hang out with. This is an example of why this is bad. This is a state level private prison, but this story came out this week about this Oklahoma private prison system where a judge, for whatever reason, I'm assuming kickbacks, allegedly, in my head, I'm trying not to get us sued, even though they'll never see this. But the they would, for decades, there's been this program, a Christian program, like a diversionary program for drug offenders to go get rehabilitated. You spend a year in a work release camp, basically, learning a life skill. They were sending people to this who weren't even drug addicts, weren't addicted to anything. And it turns out all the camp isn't even Jesus stuff. You just work at a chicken processing plant. It's just slave labor.
I'd say, so slavery. It's just slavery, because slavery is still legal if you're a felon or whatever. If you're imprisoned, the Constitution says you can be enslaved. And that's like anything that incentivizes via profit companies to want more people to be incarcerated for longer. That's always going to be a fucking problem. I don't care who you are or how you look at it. Like, it's obvious that you cannot have that in any kind of actually modern society, you know, but it's widespread in this country.
It's the innovation in the free market, Trey. You got people sitting over there not doing, you're like in prisons, they're captive, they can't do anything else. You've got them not working in a chicken plant. That doesn't seem like a good idea.
Right.
So yeah, that one was good.
Okay, but just to clarify though, because it's an executive order, that executive order is that so any federal penitentiary will no longer be able to be contracted to a private prison corporation, but any state level penitentiaries or whatnot, depending on the state, they'll
the federal government doesn't run those. And I'm imagining like one of the big impacts of this is going to a lot of the ICE detention facilities are privately contracted out. I'm assuming this is going to force the closure or relocation of the people being held there to more humane conditions at some point once they, when the contract runs out. So that could be one big beneficial thing that could happen. And he's also issued a bunch of environmental executive orders, which is like a lot of the stuff he's done is pretty close to the proposed Green New Deal. So much so that like AOC was doing Twitter end zone dances over it. So that was cool. And the good part of the Green New Deal is like the way Republicans and oil companies or whatever slam environmental legislation, it just kills jobs. The Green New Deal is also a jobs program. It tries to create jobs in green energy because we still need power. I like air conditioning, right?
Right.
I like driving my car when I want to go places. I like being able to watch TV and operate my computer. So yes, we do like the modern amenities that come with having a good power supply. But you just got to get the energy from stuff that isn't like climate change. But like their messaging around this stuff is about jobs and creating jobs and getting people better jobs. And it is possible, like the Texas wind industry is surging. Like it's like becoming more moving into wind and solar because it's more profitable and cheaper. So it's like this is very doable if we don't do the asinine thing, which prop up oil companies. Like they're doing backward shit. They're rigging the market for the more damaging product. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like we should
but that, I mean, it's, the Green New Deal, it's just like the original New Deal, with like a TVA and dams and things like that and infrastructure projects that created a shitload of jobs, and it was effective because like you said, it's not about just eliminating entire sectors. It's just about altering the way we approach those sectors, but there's still going to be a lot of work to be done and a lot of jobs to be had there, especially if you're, starting something up completely brand new. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be plenty of opportunities there, and it's good for the earth and whatever. So how can anybody hate it? But if you're a coal person, I guess you can hate it. But yeah.
And this is a quote from an article, a piece on Gizmodo that I really liked. But Gizmodo is not exactly anything remotely to a right wing publication. But it's like what ties the executive orders together is they aren't about windmills or polar bears. They're about people's lived experiences, and that's the way all this stuff should be messaged. And if you wonder if Republicans think they're losing this, that's the piece if you want to go read it about Biden climate messaging war. And you can tell Republicans think they're losing this because they get really stupid. Here's a clip from an interview today from Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, which, of course, is a big oil state. If you got that, Matt, throw it up there. Oh, he doesn't have. Oh, yeah, anyway.
So still try to pull it up, Matt. Bring it up, but Mark, set it up a little bit more.
Yeah. So Senator Joe Kennedy, who sounds like LSU's football coach. What's his name?
Ed Orgeron, Coach O.
Yeah.
Some of the kids, most of the kids, they got the COVID, but they won't have it during the season, so it'll be all right.
I don't like making fun of Southern accents because us, but
Louisiana. Okay, God damn it! You had to make it like a thing. Now that's how First of all, I love Coach O and the way he talks.
No.
So like.
No, wait, you misunderstood me.
Okay. I thought you were directly saying, like, I don't approve of that type of thing, Trey, what you just did. You shouldn't do that because it's hypocritical or whatever. Okay, I'm sorry.
I was about to say my exception for that is Louisiana, because people from Louisiana to me talk like they're, cartoon alligators or whatever, I think is what I said. I just cannot listen to them talk. One time I was in Shreveport, the comedian I was working with, he said Shreveport's home to the most beautiful women who are 22 years old with 4 kids that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, all right. We're sitting here, we're laughing about making fun of Louisiana right now. As far as I'm concerned, and yes, I'm very biased, but as far as I'm concerned, literally the single best cuisine on planet Earth comes from the state of Louisiana. So Louisiana still brings a lot to the table. Nobody does food as good as Louisiana does. So now that we've gone on that little diatribe here, I think Matt's got the clip. So yeah, but this is Louisiana Congressman talking about the Green New Deal and what's going on there, Mark?
Very reasonably.
Yeah. All right, play it, Matt.
Trey, but my car doesn't run off fairy dust. My car doesn't run off unicorn urine. And
did he say Trey? Who was he talking?
Trey Gowdy.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, that was fine. I wasn't expecting to open with that. Yeah, over that. Yeah, I don't know about you, Trey, but my car, and I was like, oh my God, I've had this conversation before.
Yeah, Trey Gowdy went the modern conservative route where he used being a congressman as a stepping stone to be an influencer on Fox News.
Right.
Which is like the Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying her damnedest to get kicked out of Congress so she can go have a radio show, and they just will not do it.
Right. But yes, unicorn urine. That's what it runs on. Like treating it like this is all just made up fairy tale bullshit or whatever, when it's all very real, very scientific, and very, jobs providing if you just go down that road. But you got to say what you got to say.
Right. Look, if we don't do something different, a lot of us are going to die. Let's just be straightforward about this. I'm not saying we eliminate all combustion. We're not going to immediately remove trucks from the road. That's not fucking anybody's advocating. It's not possible at this point. But it should be a goal to have cars that run on clean energy. It should be. It should be. Why do people like? Does anyone like pollution? Who likes it?
Yeah, I mean, apparently a lot of people do. I don't know. It's just that you can't mess with the free market, and also that's all a hoax. Pollution. Yeah. Pollution ain't real.
But one of the reasons these assholes in their back foot talking about unicorn urine and fairy dust is because Democrats are kind of being semi-aggressive. There's been a couple of things like the COVID bill negotiations are ongoing, and a few Democrats are trying their damnedest to do that annoying Dem shit they do, like take the $1,400, the $2,000 checks that are already down to $1,400, and making those
right. So basically, trying to work with the other side, right? So we're talking about Congress now, and they've had this infuriating tendency on the left. That's one of the cliches about the American left in politics, is that they care so much about reaching across the aisle and working. And to be fair, Biden parroted a lot of that shit on the campaign trail, but it kind of seems like recently maybe the Democratic Congress is moving past that. Has Congress's balls dropped? That's what we're wondering, Mark.
Yes. So here's a good sign. Republicans are trying to do that shit. They did it in 2009, all right? And Chuck Schumer gave a speech just a couple of days ago, which was encouraging, where he's like, we're not doing this, making the same mistakes we did in 2009, which is a bunch of Republicans pretended they wanted to pass a bipartisan bill. They negotiated what was in the bill down to what the bare minimum they were willing to do, and then walked away from it. They didn't even vote for their own proposal, right? They just ran the clock out. Now, do not want the clock running out on COVID relief, because cities need the money now to distribute vaccines. They're broke. Cities and states are broke. They can't get needles in people's arms if you don't send them money. The Republicans are trying to cut that money out of the bill. They were trying to cut out unemployment extension. They were trying to cut out a bunch of business loan shit and PPP loans and all that stuff. It's like, it's just they're being unreasonable. And so Biden told them to fuck off and come back when they're serious. And like, the thing is, like, he's getting shit about not being about partisan or not being about unity, but like, these policies are broadly popular with voters. Like, if you get outside of 10 square block of DC, these are super popular. Republicans like these proposals. The ones who out in the country who live, and work and vote. It's just not popular in like Politico.
Right. So that's the idea, right? Because yes, I know a lot of Republicans, I feel like their strategy is sort of, because the Democrats have the power right now, and if they do all this stuff, the more stuff they do, the more things Republicans can point to in the upcoming election years and be like, look at all this shit they forced down your throat, right? Is that really what you want to happen? Like, that's part of their strategy, I think. But like you just said, a lot of these things in actual practice will hit for people, Mark. They'll work, they'll be popular. So if that ends up happening and the result is good, then maybe it will backfire. And like, if it doesn't, then hell, I don't know where that even leaves us. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do it either way if you're the Democrats, is what I'm saying. Like, why even care about getting into this position in terms of controlling all the various factions of the government? Why even make that a point if you're not going to do this when you actually pull it off and succeed? You got to do this.
Get some oil rig workers, teach them how to build wind turbines, get them away from the arsenic they have to inhale, and raise their pay by 25% to make clean energy, and then have Republicans go on TV and say, we tried to stop that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right.
Yes. Same thing with like Republicans running 2 years and how we tried to stop the government from giving you $1,400 checks and extending your unemployment benefits. Let them run on it if they want to. This is a democracy. They can say that actually the bad effects of giving you $1,400 were that in 20 years we won't have enough money for as many wars. They want to say that. Go ahead. It's like do stuff and have them run against it, because they don't want to run. They don't want these policies enacted because they don't want to run against them.
Right. Yes. Do stuff that actually helps real people objectively and force them to later say we weren't down with that and see how that plays out. Right. Yes. Absolutely. Almost
all another like encouraging thing. Almost all like congressional Democrats are behind a bill to expand the minimum wage to $15 an hour that escalates faster and than the bill Bernie Sanders ran on last year. It's a better bill than Bernie Sanders ran on last year. The minimum wage. Now the minimum wage should be higher than 50. Like, we can get to the economics of it, but like if the minimum wage had like increased as fast as it was when it was enacted in the 60s, it'd be like $25 an hour right now or whatever. Like your parents and grandparents, and they got a minimum wage job, we're making $22 an hour. And then
so I want to circle back to that actually, because I was going to bring this up already when we were talking about Biden and everything that's happened so far. But first, before we get into the questions and comments section and whatnot, I want to make sure to at least give a brief update on the Wall Street kerfuffle. Right, one of the last things we talked about is one of my favorite stories of the year so far. A bunch of Redditors have taken on Wall Street hedge funds, and they had them by the balls for a while. Where are they at right now, Mark, over a week later?
All right, so basically everyone has agreed that Robinhood sucks and the CEO should be in jail. Not clearly for what. Everyone's just in favor of putting him in jail.
Right, so Robinhood is the popular trading app that a lot of these regular people were using to buy these stocks. And Robinhood infamously last week shut down all trading on GameStop stock, which was a bullshit move.
Yes, and now it's not really clear why. They say it's because they didn't. The trading volume was so high, they didn't have the money in their accounts to cover the trades. They weren't in regulatory compliance. They had to pause and get an injection of capital from one of their sugar daddies, so they'd have enough money to do that. But also one of their sugar daddies is Citadel, which owned a chunk of Melvin. Melvin was the main hedge fund.
Yeah,
that was getting bent over and fucked by by this Reddit forum. So the company that owns Robinhood was also losing money because of these trades. So it was very suspicious, and that's why the CEO of Robinhood is going to be summoned to testify in front of Congress, and he's got to explain what GameStop is to Maxine Waters, which should be really fun. This whole thing is really funny, but the main reason I wanted to talk about this some more is we got this video clip.
That one, Matt. Let's play it. They're not happy. They're not happy on Wall Street. Everybody. Yeah, they're having trouble with this.
You're learning here. Maybe it's fun, fine. Maybe it's a movement, but be prepared to lose 80 to 90% of it. And if it's still worth it, then have at it. But the biggest loss of capital
remember that because I want to talk about that.
Human capital of young men who are sitting and staring at their phone and watching the price of Bitcoin or the price of AMC. And ask yourself, would you be better off taking that 1, 2, or 3 hours a day and working out, trying to form relationships with mentors, with romantic relationships, with people at work?
Stop taking my money and get
exactly. No, it's like, stop being such a fucking loser, person who's taking me to the woodshed right now. Hey, person that's raking me over the coals. Why don't you get your shit together? That's what you need to do.
Similar to how there's a ton of young women out there who became very depressed by sitting in their rooms looking at Instagram. Self-cutting and self-harm skyrocket. I think you are going to see an explosion in young male depression, and I think a lot of it is going to be reverse engineered to apps that convince you you're part of a movement or physically addict you to your phone. Ask yourself,
so
would your time
he said he started by saying like, okay, fine, you know what, fine,
that is the real
do
capital
it.
Destruction that is taking place here.
I hope you realize you're going to lose 80 to 90% of that at the end of the day. And if that's still worth it to you, then fine. Well, I got bad news for that guy. It's fucking worth it to a lot of these people. Like a whole lot of these dudes, they don't give a fuck. That's what these Wall Street people don't understand, dude. They don't give a fuck. Like, they're in it to fuck. These people fashion themselves after the Joker, right? It's not about the money. It's about sending a message, motherfucker. Like, you're not going to outlast them on the profit margin motivation. They don't care. They'll burn themselves down, dude. They don't care.
One thing Melvin did, because Melvin had been doing this for a while, and they were exceedingly greedy, right? They started shorting GameStop at like $20 a share. They pushed it down to 10. They pushed it down to 6, then they pushed it down to 4. And that's when the Reddit people noticed. It's like $4. Fuck, I can buy 100 shares for $400. If I lose $400. I'll do this.
Right.
To fuck. So like, it became like the people who got out early made a ton of money. They're like our buddy Roaring Kitty, who made $35 million
yeah.
from a $50,000 investment and posted the video of him laughing while dipping chicken tenders in champagne. Guy's an American. He's a legend. He's an American hero. But some of these people, like there were clips from the subreddit where people were talking about, like, telling stories about 2008 about how they remembered like their aunt losing her house and moving back in with them, and another person was talking about their family eating like making tomato soup with ketchup packets that they took from restaurants and shit. People are still fucking angry about 2008. They hate these hedge fund assholes, and they wanted to stick it to them. And you could get into this movement and feel like you're a part of it, buying 10 shares for $40 that you hold forever, while Melvin gets more and more desperate to buy its shares back.
Right.
Then it's funny to them, and it's like two middle fingers up. Who gives a shit?
Right. And they really think, the hedge fund guys really think that, like, the thought of losing all of that $40 or $400 that you just said, like, that is going to pull these people back. And it's not. That's asinine. Like, again, a lot of these people that have gotten in on this movement or whatever, they're not in it for the money at all, and that's what's going to fuck these dudes over in the end, I think. But I'm all for it.
Ja
Rule, yes. Where is Ja, Mark? Tell us where Ja is.
when it became like the social justice, let's fuck Wall Street thing, instead of just making money off of it at the end of it, when it was like the longer you hold your shares, the more money Melvin loses, and fuck Melvin.
Right.
Ja Rule tweeted, "Hold the line, don't sell." And that was like, all these people were being like, I mean, it becomes a prisoner's dilemma, because the first person to sell is going to make a lot of money. The last person left holding the bag is going to lose. So it has to be everybody in together, or it's like I say everybody in together while Joe Rule's definitely getting his money out because he's broke as fuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they after Robinhood shut down the trading and whatnot, which was a bullshit move, by the way, which basically forced the price down. So there's a big dip in the price now. But Mark Cuban went on CNBC like this morning saying, fuck that, hold the line. Like it'll go, like they're not done. They're not done with this shit, despite all the stuff with Robinhood and whatever. Yeah. They're still going for it, and I'm all for them. Hold it until they all die. I don't care.
I didn't fully understand the mechanics of how shorting works until this happened. So thank you, Wall Street Bets, for educating me about this shit. But so like shorting is a transaction with three parties. You got the person who owns the shares. You got me, the short seller, and got Trey, the person. I'm going to borrow the shares from the person who owns them, pay them a vig. I'm going to sell it to you, right?
Right.
Say it's for like $10,000 because I'm assuming it's going to go down to like $6,000 in a day or two, right? So a day or two it goes down to $6,000. I buy it back from you. I pocket the $4,000 profit, give the shares back to the guy who owns them, and pay him what I owe him. And that's, I mean, a nice, clean, easy money with no real work. Right? Melvin, me in this scenario, has to buy the shares back from you. I have to. They're not mine. I don't own them. I'm contractually obligated to give them back to the first person. So if the price keeps going up, my losses can be infinite, and I'm still paying that vig. Every day I owe that guy more money to buy more options to keep his shares. So if you hold it, I get more desperate, and I'm losing more money. So that's essentially the mechanics of how it works. And yeah, so they're still holding.
Yeah. Squeeze them, nerds. Squeeze them. That's what I say. All right. Let's go to the questions and comments, Matt. You can throw up there whenever you got some. But what I said earlier, we were talking about one of the Democratic measures, a minimum wage bill that actually escalates faster than Bernie Sanders' bill on the same subject in 2019. And I was going to say, while Matt's looking for some stuff like that, this is what we're seeing in real time right now, the value of like Bernie Sanders and AOC and people like that's campaign and presence, right? And what I mean is dragging the Democratic establishment kicking and screaming further to the left. Like that's actually happening now. You can see the value of that whole dynamic, right?
I think at first the Democratic establishment thought that their popularity was random or based on personality stuff. And then what they expected to happen was like they would get insulting editorials from I bought a camera.
Yes. Bridget Muehlberger says, Mark, new laptop, camera, mic, digging it. Yeah, he got a whole new setup. It's long overdue, but look at him. He looks great. Sounds great.
Yeah. So I think that what they expected to happen was there'd be like tisking editorials in the Washington Post, and Politico would slam them, and people go on MSNBC and say that Bernie's too aggressive or misogynist or whatever, and they assume that. Because they live in fear of that stuff, they assume that stuff would destroy them. Right. And then two or 3 years later, 4 or 5 years later, they're more popular than they were when they started. And they're like, oh, shit, I can do stuff. And they can write those editorials and say that shit, and it won't really hurt me. In fact, I might get more popular because people get the information on different ways now. Who knows what anyone's going to say or what sources people are reading. So it seems like they're kind of learning, but we'll see.
All right, Mark, this is a question for you. Educate me on this. Adam R. Kornblut says, can we talk about the boycotting of Publix due to the heiresses funding the January 6th coup attempt?
So I will say, in general, I love a Publix. If you don't live in a town where there's a Publix, it's a Florida-centric.
I think it started in Florida, yeah. They're definitely Florida heavy for sure. They got good sandwiches, good deli, yeah.
You can go to a Publix deli counter and have yourself a great meal. Publix is the grocery store from Jameis Winston got caught shoplifting crab legs from.
Oh, right.
Remember that?
Yes, he 100% was given those crab legs, by the way, but couldn't say that because of NCAA regulations, because that's how fucked up the NCAA is. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you get less penalty for committing a crime.
Stealing.
Yeah.
Right.
So So the thing is, like, basically all the information I know about it was in this guy's question. Is that this heiress got caught funding a lot of the January 6th rallies, and then people were boycotting Publix. Which my understanding is Publix is otherwise a good company. I think they pay their employees well, and I think they let them unionize. I'm talking out my ass right now. I think that's true, but I don't know. I'm gonna be sad if I go back to Florida, where my wife's family live, and I can't go to Publix.
Yeah, well, this goes back to that whole. I didn't know about this till it just got brought up, so I'm still fuzzy on the details. I'm not a huge Publix devotee or anything to begin with, but I mean, yeah, generally speaking, Publix hits for me. But this is like the first time this came into my consciousness was Chick-fil-A, right? The famous Chick-fil-A scandal where they were donating all these homophobic causes and whatnot, but a lot of people were like, "Look, man, their chicken hits. What are you going to do?" Like, how do you sort of divide up, or how do you look at that, the people that run a company and their politics versus like the product itself? Because I don't really care about Chick-fil-A one way or the other, so it's easy for me to just not go there because I'm not a huge fan to begin with. But I've told my Uncle Tim before, my gay Uncle Tim's like, "Look, man, if Taco Bell gets in some of that Chick-fil-A shit, like, I just hope you know that I'm sorry," because I'm still glad to eat these nachos. I don't know, but how do you rationalize that, Mark?
I mean, there's look, okay, Chick-fil-A. How do I put this? Like Chick-fil-A, of course, if them donating causes to try to stop gay marriage from being legalized sucks, but they're also one of the only minimum wage sector jobs that gives people Sunday off to spend with their families, right? That's like Publix, for example. Like, yeah, that lady sucks, but Publix also gives out free. I'm looking at their they give out free medicine in their pharmacies. They give free antibiotics and free like they do. So I don't know how you break down this stuff, because any big corporation is going to have assholes at the top of it.
Exactly.
That's how American capitalism works. And then like even just like the business model wise, I don't know if people know how McDonald's works, but McDonald's isn't a restaurant chain. It's a real estate sort of. What McDonald's does is buy a piece of land and let somebody rent the store from them. What you do in that store is sell McDonald's burgers, but that's sort of not. Everything's a scam, is what I'm saying. So like, I don't know how much, like, where you eat your chicken sandwiches isn't really activism to me. If you want to boycott it as a personal statement because it just makes you not as hungry to eat chicken sandwiches from like a family that's hateful. Of course, like Chick-fil-A is privately owned, so it's a little easier to connect the politics of its owners directly to like the stores. Right.
But if you're boycotting every corporation and has some like shitty or unfortunate in today's society, it's going to be hard to do that. You're going to be left with not much. I mean, dude, Apple does a lot of bullshit. You know what I mean? And everyone in America is got some kind of Apple product, or Nike. Like, between those two and the shady shit they have been up to, corporately speaking, I mean, nobody's hands are clean. And look, it's shitty, but it's just the way it is.
I'm all for young people to be better. We're firmly on the record here to do that.
Yeah, so, that's our whole thing. That's all we do.
I don't mind you being like, fuck you, Publix, and not like shopping there until you sever this lady's ties to the company, yada yada yada. Absolutely do that. That's cool. But like, really, in the real world, Publix started covering, gave health coverage to same-sex benefits, same-sex couples in 2015. And then people yelled at them because they weren't covering PrEP HIV medication for people's partners. And then they changed the policy and started covering it. So yelling at them does work, and they do some progressive stuff. They've also never had a layoff, so that's cool too. Like, it's like companies are mixed bags, man. They're in business to make money. They're not there to be your friend. But if you yell at them, maybe they'll be your friend.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Natalie Nichols says, "Do you think there's a risk of riots at the impeachment hearings?"
Maybe, but I'm not sure. Like, it depends on what Trump does, right? Because his whole legal team just quit for two reasons. One, he wouldn't pay them, and two, that he wanted them to argue the election was stolen, instead of try to make constitutional arguments about whether it's illegal to impeach a former president or whatever. So, if he makes it crazy, he has that ability to make things real crazy, which is what happened on the 6th. If he stays in Florida and just sends a couple lawyers, it'll be a boring TV show, and I don't think anybody will go. If he shows up and does what he did on the 6th and gives a big speech to a bunch of followers he summoned there, and then goes to speak on the floor of Congress as some of his supporters wanted to do, yeah, they could get real bad. So
I have to think that because of how it all went down on the 6th and the ultimate outcome of it, i.e., him not being the president anymore, despite that happening, I have to think all of that makes this type of situation less likely. I'm sure there's still some lunatics and people will try some shit, but like, it would surprise me if it was even approaching the level of the January 6th riots, you know?
Yeah, I would. I mean, he just feels way more impotent than he did.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Part of that's because they took Twitter away from him. Part of that's because he's not president anymore. But I mean, one big difference is like the National Guard won't be held back this time, so it'll be much more of a fair fight,
right?
Than Capitol Police on their own.
But who knows? We'll see. Speaking of we'll see what happens on the next episode of Evening Skews. Am I right? 48 hours, Thursday evening. It'll be fun. We'll talk about all the latest and dumbassery and everything else. We hope you join us. Thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate it. I'm Trey. That's Mark. See you. Bye.